this guy who I think on the second date is like, I want 3 children. I was like, with who, bro?
Oh, at least it's said.
Bro. With who? Hey folks, this is Sophie.
Hi, I'm Wanjiru.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and welcome to Ninja Parenting.
Alrighty, girls. Today, I'm thinking.
Sophie, sorry, was that a delayed reaction? Was the, did the ninja come after?
It might have.
It's old age.
Slow boot.
Oh, just make fun of me. You're coming this way, and I laugh at y'all. So today I was thinking we could talk about when or how you decided to become a mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was a decision.
If it was a decision.
Yeah.
If it was a surprise.
If it was a pandemic.
If it was a pandemic event. So let's talk about that process for each of us.
Hey, I'll let Beth go first.
Yeah. Because I don't know if there was ever a decision. I think I felt like it was always going to happen. Yeah, like, I don't know, growing up with a large family, and it just seemed like the natural progression. You go to school, at some point you find a husband, you get married, there will be children, and then that's it. So I think for me more, it was a decision of when it would happen. So for my husband and I, we decided to wait. We got married. I was 24 at the time. He was an
27.
unnamed age, because I know he's going to kill me if I just over here declare.
It's my fault. Sorry, Dad.
So anyway, I think for us guys, we said that after we got married, we wanted to get to know each other first because, we were young. So we chilled for a while. And then the first baby was a surprise because we were not trying. And things just happened, and there I was now, a parent. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's how it happened for me. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I guess it's the normal fairy tale when you're a young girl. You're like, one day I'll finish school, I'll get married, I'll have children,
Yeah.
But then when the rubber met the road, I think it was at about, in my 20s, I guess, was when I began to start thinking about the reality of it. And of course, there's always this barriers you put on yourself for like, I'd like to get married at 27 and then have my first baby at 28 or 29, that didn't work out. But I think at some point I stopped focusing so much. I just always knew I wanted to be a mom. Yeah, I just knew motherhood was for me. Yeah, so...
You seem surprised.
I am.
I know, I didn't look like I was the mothering type.
No, it's not that. I think maybe it's the certainty with which you say that. Because I was one of those people who I think I was certain at a time in my life, and then that just disappeared. And then it came back much later, now when I was getting married. So I remember being in my teens and thinking, motherhood, it sounds nice enough to do. And I had dreams about it. But the thing that I dreamt about was the husband, was the person. Not so much the kids. I don't even think I pictured them when I was thinking about family. I was just like, this wedding will go like this. This guy will look like this and he'll be like this. So that for me was the focus. And then somewhere in there, there was going to be children. But I was just like, I'm not worried about that. But it wasn't until now, much later, because then... husband didn't come at that 27, 28, 29, 30. Eesh. I was like, okay, then it's not going to happen. So then I stopped worrying about it. I stopped thinking about it. I said, okay, maybe I'm not the marrying type. And I never thought of having children without someone. Never. It was never a consideration. I just said if there was not going to be a someone, then I was not going to be a mother. That was it. So it surprises me, like for you guys, you're like, it was in the pipeline. It was something I was going to do, given that I came from a big family. So it was just the natural progression for me.
And when did it change?
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you. I met this guy who I think on the second date is like, I want 3 children. I was like, with who, bro?
At least it's said.
At least you met halfway.
I'm like, can you pay for this chicken first? Before we talk about children.
Second date.
He was so clear. Wow. He was like you guys.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's maybe because he came from a family that was large and that was intact because the parents were together. And that was not my experience. I grew up with a single mother and I had one brother. I still do. I have one brother. Yeah. So the surety with which I think y'alls just declare that, I'm going to have this number of children and by this time and this everything, I was just stunned by that. And so it was a major resistance for me. I was like, I can't be with this guy. In the back of my head, I was like, this is can't work. Because I was like, he's too certain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting then thinking about, okay, then maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
Wait, so did you, like, how did you change your mind? Did you back off and then, like, you just continued with the relationship? Did you quit the relationship? Like, where did this actually switch now?
I really, really liked him and I wanted to be in a relationship with him.
Yeah.
So for me, it was almost like I was making a compromise. I was like, okay, then I'll have one.
That's what we all say.
You know, out of 3, I'll have one. Yeah. So I was making some concessions in my own mind.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that was interesting was how determined he was. And I had not seen that and I had not expected that in a guy to be so clear because again, there's this stereotype that it's the women who want children.
Or push for them.
Or I've been dreaming about them since they were 5, right? And so to have a guy who's just like, yeah, I'm going to have 3. And I was like, hey, how please? With whomst? Yeah. It just seemed very surprising to me. So, and then because I was also getting older, I was really concerned about the mechanics. Yeah. Because, you know, as a woman is aging, that clock, there's a time in your life when it ticks so loudly, you think you're going insane. And then the ticking starts quieting. You're like, trouble. So, and for you guys though, since you had always known, so even when you got married, you're like, okay, anytime now. But you said your first one was...
No. Yeah, us guys decided to wait.
Yeah.
And we hadn't even agreed on the number, but we had this amorphous idea that we did want more than one for sure.
Yeah.
And we had talked about adopting as well. But we were like, no, let's chill. Let's enjoy ourselves. Let's just see who we are first. Because like I got married coming straight out of Campo and then he had been out of campus for a few years. And even like dating when you're in campus, it's not the same. It's, you know, when you're out now in the real world, then that's when you're buffeted by temptation. You have jobs, you have money, you have whatever. So it was different. So we're like, okay, let's just chill kidogo. Let's get to know each other. And then after that, we'll decide to have kids. We didn't even agree on when that was going to happen. So I think that the trigger was just that it happened. Like we got pregnant and we're like, okay, so I guess now we are in it. So let's just keep going. So we lost our first baby, which, that was tough. But I guess we'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
So after that, going for the second one was like, now we're in this space. We are parents. Yeah, even though that baby is not here with us anymore, we are now parents. So let's keep going and see where this takes. Yeah. And that's how we are here 3 babies later.
And you, Melissa?
Mine. So yes, I guess as a young girl, always dreamt of this fairy tale wedding. In my 20s, that kind of changed. Okay, so I was like, I know in my 20s, especially late 20s, it became, I wonder who it will be.
Yeah.
And it was no longer the focus on I think my worry was more like, okay, hey, the possibility of, okay, what if this doesn't happen? Then am I willing to? And I was like, if it doesn't, I'm definitely going to be a mother still. Like I was very certain that children were in my future.
Yeah.
With or without, you know. Yes.
A person.
Yeah. So I guess I was just like, let's just go into it in my 30s. If it didn't happen somewhere in the beginning, we'll do this one way or another. You know. But fortunately, I then met my husband and in my early 30s. And so for him, we were in 2 different spaces where he's also older. And I guess even for me, you could say in women years, you're also older because at that point you're in your beginning of your 30s. And I do remember us having the conversation onward. So I already knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
He was like, see, we are just on a date. Where has this conversation about children come from? So I was the one who was very clear. Yeah. I think even on like our 4th date for like, so how many children would you want to have?
Hey.
And he was like, well, this is the kind of stuff people discuss the day. But that's there. Listen, I ain't got time. So, and I do remember telling him, me, I would want 4 children. Hey.
You said that?
Yeah. Me, I would want 4 children. And he was like, sorry, what now? And for him, I was like, and do you have a number? He's like, I've never thought about it. I'm like, at your big age, you've not thought about this. But I do remember when, like, I guess after we had the conversation a bit more, he did say, okay, maximum 2. I'm like, guy, where are we gonna meet? So I guess that was, yeah. So I guess eventually the compromise arrived at 3.
At 3.
And without knowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess for us, we did have the conversation. And because we were not even agreeing on the numbers, we couldn't even agree on, so where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Because now we're both conflicted for like 4, and I'm like 2. And so at the point now we were getting, and so for us, it went the other way around. We found ourselves pregnant. Then it forced us to have the real conversation for like, okay, so now, are we doing this? Are we not doing this? And let's not do it just for the baby. So I guess we both knew we wanted to get married to each other. I guess the baby then just forced us, because lucky for it. I always say, maybe God knows, because maybe we'd have just been dating for now 5-10 years. Who knows?
Jamani.
But yeah, so for us it went, I think the egg became before the chicken. Yeah, that was our situation. Literally. Yeah. So that was we just found ourselves as parents.
As parents.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I think we could have switched husbands.
Me
and you, yeah? Because mine was with
and
you.
therefore,
like,
but the Lord knows.
So there'd be 10 kids here.
Yeah, 1.5, those 1.5 children's. Yeah, because, and I think now, when I got married, I was 36. Where? The clock now was at its final strokes. Like, madam, if you don't do this tonight, sahau this story. It's not going to happen. So I think I have joked about how, even as we were saying the vows, I was like, so now, after here, I was planning. Now, where in the calendar am I ovulating? Let's see. If we go on this honeymoon, if I just time, this is going to happen. So I began to really deliberate about now, because the conversation has been had, then let's just go ahead and do it. And I made it a project. You know, I wasn't even thinking about those wonderful things that people say about when you become a mother, how it will be. No, me, I was like, can you just make a baby? That became the project. Are you capable? Do you have the parts? Are you a good cow? That is what I needed to prove. I was just like, now, Masani and Gilu, I was like, bring it. And you guy, it didn't work. It didn't work the way I had planned.
1 + 1 was not 2.
Shocked. That thing shocked me because I just assumed, you know. I mean,
spring chicken one time, you're like,
not even that. You just assume, look, you're a woman, you can get pregnant. What is the issue? There's no issue. It's not difficult.
Not be further from the truth sometimes.
Yeah, and that thing just threw me for a loop. And I think when I heard that it was possible that I could not have a baby, that is when now I was devastated, which surprised me because that was not a reaction I was expecting. I thought, given my earlier feelings about motherhood, I was just like, if it happens, if it doesn't, it's as it should be. But now that there was a possibility that I might not be, oh my God, I would cry, and this guy would come and he's like, hey, you want chicken or what? You know, don't be so stressed. I'm like, you are young. You are talking from a position of youth. It's over. I was just a mess.
Yeah.
So we went to the doctor, and the doctor checked everything, and the issue was with me. I had something he called polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's an hormonal imbalance, and what happens is when you have this, because your hormones are so chaotic, it makes getting pregnant a challenge. And it was interesting in hearing that diagnosis. I was relieved that I was the one who had the problem. Because I was like, if it was him,
what would have happened?
You imagine a guy cannot take the news that he cannot have a baby. It's, I mean, we're talking about African men. For them, siring children is part of being a man, is that your ability to just father children. Now, whether you take care of them or not is another matter. But just being able, I think I took on that position as well. I was like, just the ability.
Yeah. as a woman, you should be able to procreate.
is at stake.
Yeah.
So in finding that out, I was like, okay, I'm glad it is me. But it was still difficult to process because I was like, then this just makes it really impossible, you know? And I don't know if you guys, I mean, for you, it seemed like it happened both times as a surprise. Did you just know that? Did you have any doubt? Was there any doubt anywhere in your mind that
it could happen?
Yeah.
For me, the third time around. So the first one, surprise. The second one, we tried for it, and so it didn't take very long, to be honest, which was a surprise, and it was good for us. But the next one, we tafutad. In fact, we were at the point of calling adoption agencies because we said now it was becoming heartbreaking. Every month you go to the loo and you see red and you're like, oh, not again. And it was so all-consuming. It was just this symbol of failure every single month. I remember texting you guys like always and just telling you, oh, nope, this month we're out, this month we're out, this month we're out. So at some point I was just like, maybe I'm just putting too much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
So we talked with my husband. We were like, okay, we need to step back a bit and just relax. But we still want kids in a certain spacing. Because we also didn't want to be too old. You don't have the energy. You don't have, you know, and then the older child will be siblingless for a very long time. So we're like, okay, so we still want this spacing to work. So why don't we consider adoption? Let's go do this.
Wow.
And the day we had scheduled that appointment,
It's the day.
goal!
The goal checked in.
Yes. Yeah, so it happened. It happened for us that way. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I think the second was no, so for me, the second we agreed after a lot of deliberation, remember? A lot. Because even after the first one came, now he changed his mind. He's like, me, I'm okay with one. He was like, listen, this was not the contract. So I was like, see, you are okay with two, then we just go for two. He's like, no, I'd like to change my position. Anyway, so after a lot of deliberation, he was like, okay, Sawa, let's go for two.
Yeah.
Okay, so we started to try and then we got pregnant. And then we lost the baby. So that's another story for another day. And then now for me, I think my recovery sort of was, I need another one because we're already in that space of wanting one. And so we went into it and then fortunately like a month later, we got pregnant again. So that then was, you know, that one was a lot easier. And I do remember us having the whole conversation because at that time we were both trying for the twos. And so it was like, goal, not goal, you know, and then, goal. Yeah, and I do remember her saying, hi, how come you've scored 2 in 1 season and me, I'm just here waiting. And then I remember then later on when now, was it like a few, because I do remember even the time when I found out for the second one, it was in your office.
Yeah, I had I always had pregnancy tests.
Yeah, this babe,
So she came
I don't know what it was.
me.
She always had a 6 somewhere,
Yeah.
and it was like 5 or
So
10.
weird.
But that was how much you were testing,
Yeah.
I guess. So I was just like, hey, I'm not sure, guys. I think I've missed but I'm not sure. I'm scared to test. She's like, swing
come.
by. You have. She's like, many even. If you want to do even 5. And we did. And then the first one just came out, was like, wait.
No
It
doubt.
was a bright,
No doubt. Bright.
Yeah.
In fact, remember we sent you we sent the picture in the group.
Yes.
It's happening.
So it's happening. And then I think like 3 months later, then you
2
are.
or 3 months.
Then you are. The gap is, you know, the gap.
Yeah.
The gap is 3.
And again, we were together because we'd gone shags to visit my shosho. And then on the way back, I was just feeling, this is like a heaviness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I tested that night and then.
Oh, it was so much. Yeah. That was. Yeah. So that is the story around parenting.
How it happened.
Yeah.
And how people can be on different pages. And yet,
I'm curious, like when you got the news now about your diagnosis about PCOS, how did he take it? Like, what was his response, his feeling, and then how did you now go to the next part?
It's so funny. I'm trying to remember what his reaction was. I don't think I saw a reaction from him. And maybe that was his way of processing the news. And also, I don't think he was worried. And me, I had thrown myself off the cliff. I was like, now, if there's a way you can find another woman between now and Monday and make this work, I tend to be dramatic. Also because I'm a Luya. We are like that. We go to the extremes of the earth. But he seemed quite assured with, no, it will be fine. Somehow, it's going to be fine. The doctor sounds like he knows what he's doing. And because the doctor we were seeing also did not express any concern, deep concern that, oh, it will be like this. No, he seemed okay. He was just like, this, sometimes hormones, have one or two of these tablets and regulate yourself and you should be fine. And sure enough, a month after we had visited the doctor, he had given me some herbariums. I don't even know what they were. He's like, call me in a month if nothing has happened. I called him when something had happened.
Oh, 1 month later.
What? I was like, okay, now it's done. Now it felt like now I've achieved something. And for me, I was still in that mode of, you are ticking off boxes.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Even being pregnant is a check. I had not connected the part of, now with pregnancy comes these other things.
Yeah.
No, for me, I was like,
That's just the beginning.
I have done it. Now I qualify. And that was it. And I think it wasn't until now we start talking about what it means to be a parent. I don't think it even registered. Yeah, it was just like, and then, I had to tell my mother, and my mother, being the woman that she is, she was like, oh, okay, fine. I was like,
There's
we're
no
not
elation, throwing flowers at you.
I mean, and maybe that's just her personality. But I remember having to tell my brother, and it was so weird because he's my younger brother, having to tell him I was
now he
pregnant.
knows you had sex.
Because now he knows what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And that thing was just like,
And how long ago?
how long?
Last month too.
You've been doing this. And it was interesting because even when I had the initial diagnosis, I called, when we had been trying and it was not working, I had told him about it in a conversation and he just said, go get checked. He was quick to don't spend a lot of time checking, asking, agonizing. Just go get checked and be told what it is. So in then telling him the news, he was more thrilled than my mother. But it was also very strange.
Yeah.
And I think even being pregnant for me, it's like everyone just knows what you've been doing. So you're like, I feel some type of shame. But everyone is excited for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, and everyone wants to touch your belly, but it's just weird how...
Also.
You're like,
So now imagine trying to explain to your parents
Oh my gosh.
especially...
that you met.
Yeah.
No. Yours were married. Now imagine trying to go and explain to your folks for first and foremost, I got news. Number one, you know that guy I've been seeing. It's kind of serious now.
Yeah.
Also, this is how serious it is.
Yeah.
So I guess that's also now having to break it down in double, because I remember having to take my dad for lunch.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
And it was like, and he was like,
To a public space.
Safe
area.
because he can't blow up
Oh, yeah.
there. And I remember I told my mom and she was like, you have to tell your father you're by yourself. Because I was like, so you go spread the news. She's like, you must tell your dad.
Yeah.
Took him for lunch. And he was like, let's meet at this seafood because we both love seafood. So I was thinking at you, hey, yeah. Could it go down the throat? I couldn't even hide the news. I was just like, before we go any further, I'm not having the prawns. And mostly because.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, no problem. I'll eat them for you. That is fantastic news. So I guess it was, but it was also helpful that there was processes that were to follow. It was,
Okay.
the question was not there. So is he going to be present?
Yeah.
But then again, also recognizing that not everybody then has that storyline. It's also the anxiety of when you break it to people in the scenario you're in.
There's some judgment.
Yeah, there's judgment.
There is.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
There's
is.
your own.
Yeah.
There's yours and
There's
other
because there's the
people.
parents, there's your siblings, then there's the larger
community.
So it's an interesting stage to be at. But so you at that, so one, excitement, two, are you planning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did it work as?
You know me, I am that type A person. I had to check all these boxes because again, remember I was going against the clock.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I was in that category of there's even a name for mothers my age. Ooh, it's painful. Geriatric. They use bad words to describe.
Your womb is on a walking stick.
And in every space you're in, people are looking at you like, where have you been? What is wrong with you?
You're doing life wrong.
Or people assume this is your pensioner baby. Like
yeah.
you've already done this,
Retirement.
and this is the one who's just for kukalia kwa nyumba. So I was really, and I said once Pendo hits 2 maximum, the other one has to come in. Because I also knew as I was getting older, I would not have the bandwidth to have more than these two.
Yeah.
And I think after we had the second, everyone was like, this has been fun.
It's been great. It's been real.
We've proved our point.
Yeah.
And so now we can stop.
Did you also have to tafuta the second one?
No, this one just came. Pingly. And I was like, where?
Your body already knew, like this
knew.
is how
It
we
knew
do
what
the
it's meant
thing.
to do.
Yeah, and that one, interestingly, I was even more excited than the first one. I don't know why. I guess because it surprised me. Because the other one had
quickly,
been labor
yeah.
of love and anxiety and everything. This one was just like, oh my gosh, I did it again. I did it on my own.
Type A personality.
Yeah, for me,
Now
it's
I
all
didn't need
personal
help.
achievement. I know, I'm all
The
about
overachiever.
personal achievement. So the second was, it was a happy surprise. Now the question was the gender, because again, I had planned.
Oh, that boy. Since this is a girl, automatically, boy.
I had planned. No, you see now, I don't know if I can say this, but me, I wanted girls always. So I was just like, okay, I'll take whatever, but if you can find a way to give me a girl, I'll be so happy. Which is what happened.
So I have a question for Melissa, because your dynamic is where you are at emotionally, you and your partner. For you, because for you, you're feeling that responsibility is yours, and having to tell the parents. So just like, what was your state of mind and what sort of support did you have at the time?
So I think my state of mind was, first I was shocked because it wasn't something we were planning per se. We talked about but not planned. So when it did happen, I think there was the anxiety of, we'd already dated for like going to 2 years. And we both knew that this is what we wanted. Like we both knew we wanted to get married.
Yeah.
But I guess now this was like a kink on the road for like, what? Will I be jumping the gun? Will I start looking like I trapped him? Or, all those things that come along with it. And I really did not want to get into a marriage because I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And so I do remember the day I did, I wondered whether should I keep it from him? Should I not? And I just said, let me just be forthright. So I did go and I told him and I was like, listen, this does not mean it's not a death sentence. It doesn't mean that you have to marry me. I'm actually okay. If you don't want to, I'm okay with raising the child. If you want nothing to do with it, if you do, tell me how you want to do this. Do you want us to proceed? Do you want to be part of the child's life? Like, you tell me how you want it to go. But this is not, I'm not expecting that this is like, I'm also okay if I do this on my own. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, we split ways and everybody went and thought about it. But he was like, me, I'm not leaving my child. And me, I already knew I wanted to marry you. So I'm okay, like, yes. But then now it was the how. So that now we couldn't talk about for like 3 months. And that was hence the Lamu trip, which was let us now go and think about this before we bring it to the parents. To like, okay, so what do we want? Are we on the same page? This is what I want. This is what. So like, we really had conversations around it before I could now take, because me, I've now introduced any boyfriends to my parents. I was like, the only one who will meet them will be the one. So I was like, I needed to be sure if I'm taking you to the parents, we're not going to do this game. Are you sure? Is this what you want? Yes, sour. So that was how it was. It wasn't until we sat, we agreed, we processed that, and even my parents didn't know until we were ready. I didn't even tell them I was pregnant until we were ready. Then I broke the news. Now I knew, okay, which side do we lie? Because I wanted to know, am I breaking the news I'm going to be a single mom? Or I'm breaking this as we are going to be co-parenting? Or are we breaking this as we are getting married? Yeah, we both want the same thing, only that the baby came. Is here also.
So how did his family take the news? Was it a similar struggle?
Did you see my father-in-law at the wedding? That guy was waiting for that. Waiting. Because they'd not had a marriage in the family for over like 20 years or 90, going to 20 years. Yeah. So he was like, hey, it's about time, my friend. So they, on his side, they were excited. And then I guess because he lost his mom, and then it ended up, so everybody was crossing their fingers it was a girl.
Yeah.
So this now being a girl also really just brought another level of So we were fortunate that it worked out that way. Yeah. So I don't discount the fact that it was fortunate. It was a happy ending. But there was also, the anxieties I can understand. Yeah, because had it gone there, I'm a single mother.
Why?
Also, I would have done it. But it honestly, if it's possible, it's helpful to have a partner. Yeah. But it's not the end of the world if they're not there too. Yeah.
it's a different world.
It is, yeah.
That's what that is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
But I think what is interesting, what I've gotten from this conversation is that for us, for some of us, for the two of you, Melissa and Beth, it was clear that this was where you wanted to go. And what it took was finding the right person to do parenting with. And what you got was those people, the right kind of people who, regardless of how you got to be parents, they were in it from the jump off. And for me, I almost had to be persuaded by the man I was dating that this is a natural progression. You're supposed to want this, and it's weird that you don't, almost.
But I guess that's the whole point of family dynamics when two people come together, right?
Yeah.
Because even he coming from a large family was still not invested in wanting many children.
Yeah.
So it's also a lot of things come into play. Family dynamics, exposure, age. There's so many things that fall into place.
Yeah.
So it's just a part where they say marriage is a compromise.
Yeah.
I guess it's true because for us, maybe it was easier because us guys are a very tight-knit external family.
Yeah.
Like we're so all up in each other's. We've just been marrying many people.
Yeah.
So for us, the family, the concept of how we've been exposed to children from such a young age, it's not out of the question and not in a negative way. So I guess that's why we wanted children too. But then it might not have been because even for you lived out of the country for a long time. You've come back, assimilating. Him has been here, which is more or less what we have, experiencing the family unit.
Yes.
So I guess it's also the dynamics of what's your exposure like.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
And what's your experience like? Because there are also people from big families that haven't had good experiences that want to know children or want children.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really true. But it's a sense of, I think once you have that discussion and you agree in principle, then it becomes an issue of, okay, so let's go ahead and do it.
Now.
Let's do it now, while as soon as we can. And I think that's the part that's really exciting, the anticipation of becoming, you don't know what's ahead, but
or devastating all in the same.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's kind of, it's like you have this secret with someone in the world that is just your secret, that we are trying for a baby. We are pregnant.
Well, so for me, it was a little different. Like the trying part, both of us approached it differently because I was mathematical. So I'm like, this is the date, this is the time, this is the position, like all of that.
Yeah.
But he liked mystery. So he used to joke that I'd just be raping him in the middle of the night, with an agenda that we have to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like for some time, I took that on myself. So at the end of the month, we'd both be like, oh, it didn't happen this time. Yeah, but actually, for at least the second one, that was largely what it was. Yeah, so it's just interesting to me. Like for you guys, when you said now we are trying, it was a we are trying kind of
for the
thing.
second one, yeah. But the interesting thing also is, I'm picking a lot of, from all our angles, why is it that we as babes always feel like everything must lie on us? Why do we always just automatically take the heavy load? Also, what's with that? Because with your story, Sophie, it's you felt like the failure. In fact, to some extent, it was like I'm happy it's me, but why are you happy it's you? Is it that society will blame you anyway, and so you felt happy that it's you anyway? So then, at least if you're blaming me, then it's me even.
Yeah.
And for you, Beth, was it I feel like I am failing, but why? You're two people trying. And even for me, it's a question of why am I feeling like, okay, no, I don't know whether my senior, I don't know if it is. But either way, why do we take such a heavy, like even for me, it still felt the heavy burden of how am I going to approach this and how will I present this? Because it's either I'm coming to tell them as this or this. And even in those phases, I knew that if I was going to go without the man in this story, I was going to be a failure in some sort of whatever in my parents' eyes and in my own eyes, because then this didn't materialize how I would have hoped it to be. But why is it the woman who has to carry this heavy burden? Like, do the dudes carry this? I have Lots of questions.
I think there's perception plays an important part here. So in the moment, I think I felt like, yes, I was carrying it, like it mattered more to me that the failure would be on my shoulders if it didn't happen. And then again, there's this clock, because now we've said we're getting pregnant. And so, yeah, me, again, math, targets, KPIs, by the end of next year, we have to be pregnant. But later on, talking to him, what I had originally interpreted as like a disconnect, or it can happen or it doesn't happen, that's okay, was also led a little bit by fear. And I think perhaps he just didn't understand how to express it, or he was afraid of disappointment. So it's not that he didn't want it to happen, but he didn't want it too much because we'd already lost one baby.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to, first of all, put pressure on you, because he didn't want me to go through that heartbreak again. It was ours, but, he was also like, yeah, I don't want this to happen to you again. But at the same time, as a man, he's like, hey, okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with it if it doesn't happen. So it was easier for him to wait to be raped. and then
just to,
yeah, exactly.
Be mounted in
Yeah.
the night time.
Because it was tough,
Yeah.
just that every month.
Yeah. I think to your question, Melissa, it's, again, I think it's driven by our biology. For women, we have a clock, right? So we only have a limited window in which, if we want to be mothers, we can do it successfully. And I think for men, they can always have babies, and they have proven that.
It's true.
And they can have them with anyone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to have any attachment or meaning or all of these other things. So I think it's by our nature, we carry the bigger responsibility. Whether we succeed or fail, it will fall on us. Whether the children turn out good or bad, it will be a mother question. And, whether you can get pregnant or not, even if it's him, it will still somehow come back to being about you. And it can even be like you are even terrible at selection. You selected a guy who is incapable.
Still, it just comes back to
Yeah,
you.
so it just comes back to us. And I don't know.
So is it then safe to say it's the culture that has been ingrained in us so much that we, as women, are the ones who have the power to, is it that culture that is now also still, or that expectation through culture that is just trickling down into generations? But then how do we stop this for our girls? Me, because I would never want my daughters to ever feel like they're failures, or they have to own that level of heaviness because something didn't work out of this nature. How do we equip this? How do we break this cycle? I guess is the question.
And I don't know that you can. I think it's something you'll feel, even if, by all accounts and standards, we're empowered women, right? We shouldn't have to explain why we don't want children or why we want children. We have reached that status. But still, inability to have a child when you want one is still going to hurt, even if you've achieved success in every other area of your life. So I don't think you can shield your child from the pain of not being able to do something that should come naturally. Especially as a woman, having a child should happen naturally. And if you can't, then you're going to feel that sting. If you can't be married and you want to be, you're going to feel that sting. If your partner does not want to be with you in terms of rearing your child, you're going to feel that. Even though you can do it successfully on your own, you're still going to feel some...
You will.
Yeah.
And
maybe it's just saying, life happens the way it does. And that could be one lesson that we leave them with. Life happens. You make plans sometimes, they don't work out.
I think that's so powerful because if we talk more and actually share the reality of it, then it'll be easier for them to cope. Because this may be a darker example, but after we lost the baby, was the first time I discovered that there are relatives of mine who've also had miscarriages and, and I was like, why did no one tell me it's a possibility? I went through those months thinking this is a done deal. Once they're in, until they come out at 9 months. And then when it happened, it's like, it took me from left field kabisa. I had not even once considered that was a possibility. And then when it happened, now people started talking about it. I had so many people in my, just messaging me or even coming to visit and sharing, for me when it happened, I was like, but nobody said this, you know? And just as easily as that, it just made it a little less hard because it was like, okay, it's not just me. I didn't fail. Because for a long time, even me, I was like, something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
I couldn't
It's true.
shikilia
Yeah.
until the end. What did I fall? Did I eat the wrong thing? Did I whatever? And then people talked about it. So maybe that's one thing you do. Yeah.
Conversations.
Yeah.
Real conversations.
Just tell them the truth
Yeah.
that, life will do what life does.
Yeah.
And some parts of it will suck so much. And some parts of it will make up for the sucky parts. But ultimately, we've been blessed. Now I look at it as a blessing.
Oh, yeah.
Because, when I think back and I know of friends who have been unable to have children and have wanted them, and that feeling, there's nothing you can do to fix it, There's not enough words you can tell someone that will mend that ache that they have. And for men as well, there are men who are in that space, but unfortunately for them, they don't have these opportunities to share how they really feel and how they are struggling. Yeah. So I think this is a really great conversation for people who are on this journey of thinking about being parents, of having those conversations with their partners early, later. How many? Let's decide. Let's find a compromise. What if it doesn't happen? Having that conversation of what if we physically can't? Do we have options? And talking to now your families and saying, because even your families have expectations, right? And just knowing that our parents are going to feel this way, but between me and you, this is our decision. So it's helpful to hear others. And I'm glad I've heard your stories. I don't think I've heard them this way.
Yeah, I know. We talked for
And we
many
talk
years.
a lot.
Still.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's interesting how conversations can go. But yeah, I guess this is there are a lot of what I'm reading is fears. Maybe we'll have to cover that on another episode.
Yeah.
Because there's also deep fears in that gratitude of having children.
Where?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And that's it for us today at Ninja Parenting. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversations. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to go to our handles.
Or your own story.
Yeah.
About how this was for you and what you experienced. And if you have any questions, please feel free to write to us.
Yeah. And Sophie, what are our handles?
At Ninja Parenting KE. Is there a hyphen?
No.
We'll put it in like the comments
okay.
or something.
Thank
Both
you.
on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
If you do the Google, you will find us.
Yeah.
Within-
Or we do one of those you'll find it up here. We'll do all of them. Somebody will find
Zico
it somewhere.
Zico within.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great week.